Good afternoon and welcome to Ecosystem Explorers. I'm your host, Hannah Yoder. Today, we will be covering the topic of snow leopards in the Gobi Desert and how these amazing cats are clawing their way out of endangerment. Here to talk with us today is Layla Fatih, a ranger from Gobi-Girvan Saikhan National Park in Mongolia. Thank you for having me. Tell us a little about the Gobi Desert.
The Gobi Desert is the fifth largest desert in the world with around 500,000 square miles, and to put that in perspective, that's about the size of Peru.
A desert of that size has to have a massive effect on surrounding communities, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. The Gobi Desert is located right in the center of Asia between China and Mongolia, and thousands of animal herders and farmers live there, and many of them use the desert to house some of their animals and grow their crops. The Gobi Desert also serves as one of the main energy sources for China, as wind turbines and solar panels have been installed. The Gobi Desert also is used for mining, as it contains vast copper, gold, and coal resources. The mining boom creates jobs, economic growth, but results in pollution, land degradation, and dust generation.
And the Gobi Desert is unique from other famous deserts such as the Sahara, right?
The Gobi Desert is unique because it isn't the typical sand-dry desert that most people think of. Instead, it's a rocky, cold desert, meaning that it experiences long winters with low temperatures and often receives more precipitation than other deserts. The Gobi Desert in particular has long winters with the average temperature of 33.8 degrees Fahrenheit, with high precipitation mainly in the form of snow. The average temperature is 74.3 degrees Fahrenheit.
Does this unique climate allow for the growth of plants that aren't found in many other places in the world?
Yes, it does. One plant that is local only to the Gobi Desert and surrounding areas is the saxawood, the only plant that can flourish in all parts of the desert. It can trap water behind its bark and serve as a water resource for animals and humans alike.
That must be instrumental to the survival of different species in the Gobi Desert during the summer, when there's less precipitation to provide drinking water.
That is true. And the saxawood isn't the only plant that is instrumental for the nutrition of different local species. Animals feed on some of the other plants that grow in the desert, such as wild onions and saltwort.
Let's talk about one of the animals that lives here in the Gobi Desert. The snow leopard is perhaps the most recognizable and famous animal of this ecosystem.
Absolutely. The snow leopard is even the official symbol of Kazakhstan. The snow leopard's scientific name is Panthera uncia. Interestingly enough, the snow leopard is most closely related to the tiger, which is also a member of the Panthera genus, but the two species diverged 2 million years ago. You know what? Why don't we take a look at a real snow leopard?
Wow, really? Okay, great.
Yeah!
So where might you find snow leopards here in the Gobi Desert?
Just our luck. There's a snow leopard right behind those trees.
Wow, what a majestic creature.
Most definitely.
In Layla's recently published New York Times bestseller, Snow Leopard Bonanza, she talked about how snow leopards have many adaptations which allow them to thrive in the harsh ecosystem of the Gobi Desert. For example, their thick fur has patterns of dark spots and rosettes that are perfect camouflage for their rocky habitat, allowing them to stalk prey. She also said that their fur is long and dense with a woolly underfur to protect them against the cold, and they have longer tails that allow them to balance on steep, rocky slopes.
They also have large paws which act as snowshoes to keep them from falling in the snow.
Wow, how cool! Could you tell me a bit more about how snow leopards impact their ecosystem?
Snow leopards play a highly important role in their ecosystem as a top predator and an indicator of the health of the high-altitude environment. They're classified as a keystone or foundational species because they influence the migration of herds of livestock over time, which affects plant communities and shapes the niches of many smaller organisms down the food chain. Snow leopards also help keep the ecosystem in balance by preying on Himalayan marmot populations. Marmots eat vegetation and have periodic population explosions. The presence or absence of the snow leopards also affects competing hunters and scavengers.
Interesting. I do believe that you also mentioned that the snow leopard is a K-selected species, meaning that they possess relatively stable populations and generally produce low numbers of offspring. The species has an S-growth curve, indicating that the population would eventually reach a carrying capacity after the snow leopards reached a high enough population.
You are absolutely correct. The snow leopard has a type 1 survivorship curve, meaning that they have few babies but spend a lot of time caring for them. This also means they live longer and die at an older age. The birth rate of the snow leopard can range from 1 to 5, but is usually 2 to 3 in a litter. You know what, Hannah? Let's ask our new friend a few questions about being a snow leopard.
Hi there! Layla Fatih here, author of New York Times bestseller Snow Leopard Bonanza, your everyday guide to the leopard life. Sorry to interrupt your resting, but could I ask you a few questions?
Sure. Do you think you could explain your species status to us for the audience?
Well, Most snow leopards are considered endangered. We don't have a lot of habitat left thanks to all the stuff you humans are doing with the climate change and stuff. And less habitat also means less prey. And on top of that, there are some bad humans, I think they're called poachers, who like to hunt us for our fur.
Sorry to hear that.
We're really sorry about that, but we're working really hard to fix it. Herders also often kill snow leopards in retaliation to save their livestock. Conservation efforts focus on the herding communities in which many of these retaliation killings take place, in hopes to correct some of the economic despair within the area and encourage herders to protect local wildlife, and in particular, the snow leopards.
How do you define a healthy population? The GSLEP outlines a healthy population as one that contains at least 100 breeding-age snow leopards, adequate and secure prey populations, and having connectivity to other snow leopard populations. The GSLEP has already received agreement to comply with 12 countries it considered in range. These snow leopard countries include Afghanistan, China, India, among others. The president of the Kyrgyz Republic hosted a world forum on the conservation of the snow leopard and its ecosystems in 2013. As part of the GSLEP, the 12 range countries have committed to securing 20 landscapes across the snow leopard range by the year 2020. The plan works to stabilize Asia's mountain ecosystem by heavily prosecuting illegal poaching, and while the plan is recognized and upheld by 12 countries, it is truly difficult to fully monitor to prevent poaching.
Speaking of healthy populations, I have a cub to feed.
Thank you for telling us about your species.
Bye! Wow, this has been an amazing day. Thanks so much for being here today, Layla. From Ecosystem Explorers, I'm Hannah Yoder, and have a great day.
Here's a word from our sponsor.
While the GSLEP is a multifaceted plan that has the potential to shape the snow leopard population, it is simply too difficult to fully monitor and prevent poaching and retaliation killings. Join forces with the Nature Conservancy today to promote global education on snow leopards. As a result of your efforts, we will work together to stabilize the snow leopard population, and only with global education will this be made possible. Your donations will also go towards protecting other snow leopards like me from retaliation killings as farmers in Asian mountainous regions attempt to protect their livestock. If farmers are made aware of the threats posed to snow leopards, they would be motivated to take other measures to protect their livestock. Lastly, your donations will be used to station rangers in closer proximity to snow leopards to more effectively monitor and protect the snow leopard population. Go to www.nature.org to learn how you can start making a difference.